When the Arcane Armada turned entire star systems into cinders, the galaxy believed humanity was finished. Every fleet destroyed, every world conquered, hope had died. Yet in the shadow of annihilation, single human warship, the Dauntless, prepared to defy the impossible and prove that courage could outmatch an empire. The galaxy was on the brink of annihilation. Entire star systems had fallen, their suns extinguished by the relentless advance of the Arcane Armada. It's a coalition of alien empires whose hunger for conquest knew no bounds. Planets that had thrived for millennia were reduced to drifting cinders, their civilizations erased in mere hours. Nothing could withstand the Armada's overwhelming numbers and their weapons of unimaginable destructive power. Humanity, for all its technological strides, had been almost entirely crushed. A handful of colonies remained, scattered across the void, hiding in deep space nebulae or cloaked behind massive asteroid belts. Even the Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced species, had admitted defeat. Their fleets were obliterated, and their leaders forced to flee or surrender. The galaxy seemed destined for one outcome: absolute domination by the Arcane. And yet, in the shadows of this cosmic nightmare, one human warship stirred a vessel unlike any the galaxy had ever known: the Dauntless. It was an old ship salvaged and retrofitted from remnants of pre-war designs. But it carried something far more powerful than its modest frame suggested: human ingenuity, audacity, and a crew willing to defy the impossible. Captain Elias Voss, a man scarred by loss and hardened by survival, stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, staring at the holographic star map. Each red dot represented a world conquered or destroyed. Each was a life extinguished. Each dot was a reminder of what humanity had lost. "Captain," said Lieutenant Marrakest, her voice steady but tinged with urgency, "the Arcane fleet is massing near Epsilon Prime. If they move against the human colonies there, it's over." Elias clenched his jaw. "Then we make our stand there. They may have numbers, firepower, and size, but they don't have what we have. They don't have courage. They don't have the unpredictability of a human mind." The crew exchanged tense glances. Some had families lost in the initial waves of the Armada's assault. Some had spent years in hiding, scavenging for scraps of technology. And yet all of them had volunteered to board the Dauntless. Knowing it was a mission with near certain death, the journey to Epsilon Prime was perilous. Raiders and patrols of the Arcane scoured the space lanes, destroying any ship that dared traverse them. But the Dauntless was fast, maneuverable, and equipped with experimental stealth systems designed by the genius engineer Dr. Leona Vire. She had transformed what should have been a fragile warship into a phantom that could slip through enemy lines. Unseen 3 days out from Epsilon Prime, the Dauntless encountered the first wave. A patrol cruiser, 3 times their size, emerged from the void. The Dauntless's sensors flared. Alarms rang. The crew prepared for combat, but Elias had a different idea. "Stealth protocols," he ordered. "We don't fight yet. We survive." The ship shimmered, bending light around its hull. The Arcane cruiser scanned frantically but could not lock onto the vessel. Within moments, the Dauntless had slipped past, leaving the patrol adrift and confused. When they arrived at Epsilon Prime, the situation was grim. The Arcane had already begun orbital bombardment, reducing cities to molten rubble. Refugee ships fled, only to be picked off one by one. Elias' heart clenched at the sight, but he knew this was the moment. "Prepare the Omega Drive," he said. The Omega Drive was an experimental human invention, designed to concentrate the ship's energy into a single, devastatingly precise strike. In theory, it could obliterate a fleet or even a planetary installation, but the energy output was so extreme that using it could destroy the Dauntless as well. "Are you insane?" Dr. Vuyar asked, her hands flying across the console. "That drive could tear the ship apart. We have maybe a 5% chance of survival." Elias looked at her calmly. "I'll take those odds. For everyone out there counting on us, 5% is better than 0. With the crew steeling themselves, the Dauntless moved into position. Weaving between debris and broken moons to avoid detection, the Arcane fleet did not expect the lone human ship to strike directly at the heart of their armada. They never saw it coming. Elias activated the Omega Drive. The ship hummed, energy crackling along its hull like lightning in a bottle. The crew braced for impact. Then it happened. The Dauntless became a comet of pure, concentrated power. In an instant, the center of the arcane fleet erupted. Starships disintegrated before they could react. Waves of shock tore through the remaining vessels, sending them spiraling into one another in chaotic destruction. Entire battle formations were shattered, their plans undone in the blink of an eye. But the Omega Drive took its toll. The Dauntless shuddered violently. Systems failed. Hull integrity plummeted. Crew members were thrown from their stations as the ship tore through the energy threshold. Eject the drive. Dr. Vouillet shouted. Now. Elias ignored her. Hold on. With a final surge, the Dauntless struck the command flagship of the Arcane Armada. The impact alone sent a shockwave across the battlefield. The flagship's weapons, its command systems, its defenses all collapsed in a cascade of fire. The remaining arcane ships panicked, scattering in disarray. For the first time in decades, the galaxy saw the impossible. A single human warship holding the tide against the unstoppable Armada. When the dust settled, the Dauntless was heavily damaged, but still afloat. The Omega Drive had burned through nearly everything, leaving only fragments of its original structure. The crew, battered and exhausted, looked out across the battlefield. The Arcane were retreating, fleeing back into the void. The galaxy had survived against all odds because of one ship and its human crew. News spread like wildfire. Across the stars, surviving colonies began to rise, inspired by the audacity and courage of humanity. The Arcane Armada, once a symbol of terror, now trembled at the name of the Dauntless. One ship had changed the course of the galaxy, proving that even in the darkest times, hope and ingenuity could not be extinguished. Captain Elias Voss stood on the bridge, gazing at the stars. He felt the weight of loss, the pain of what had been destroyed, but also the thrill of victory. Humanity was battered, but it was not broken. The galaxy had been devastated, but a single human warship had emerged. And in that emergence, it had ignited a spark that could never again be snuffed out.